to a new Energy Capital interview. I'm Norma Martinez, and today we will be talking with Dr. Shahab Mehraeen, LSU Electrical and Computer Engineering Associate. Hello, Dr. Shahab. How are you?
Oh, hello. I'm pretty good. Thanks for asking.
Thank you for giving us this interview. Today, Dr. Shahab will talk with us about power smart grid improvements. Doctor, can you give me a brief description of your academic and professional career, please?
Yes, I joined LSU in the August of 2010 as an assistant professor. Currently, I'm an associate professor with the Division of Electrical and Computer Engineering.
What is your most enriching experience throughout your career?
I started studying the renewable energies from the beginning, and some of these findings that we researched on were used by the utility companies, including Entergy, in certain decision makings, especially in the downtown networks, which are critical networks in large cities. I developed algorithms that are suitable for simulating a power system with penetration of renewable energies and penetration of distributed energy resources. And some of our findings actually included the issues that these renewable energies can cause, in the operation of the downtown networks. And these were used by utility companies in many decision makings and many system improvements.
Last year, the southern U.S. suffered a hard freeze, leaving millions of people in Texas without power. Today, you are developing a smart grid capable of operating itself during any natural disaster. What is this project about?
Yes, this project majorly deals with automatic control of power systems that incorporate and involve renewable power. Some of the adverse effects of renewable power are considered, and the remedies will be designed to ensure good operation, smooth operation of power systems in the presence of unpredictable renewable power. The renewable power are intermittent, and they're not as predictable as traditional fossil fuel power plants. So on the other hand, the presence of these renewable power sources can help recover the power in case of natural disasters where the utility power is out and where the recovery is not an easy task. So in this project, the benefits of renewable power will also be studied and considered in maintaining and recovering power under different conditions, various conditions. We're going to make a table of possible faulty scenarios, things that may happen, and we're also making available sets of remedies for those occasions. Now, a decision-making mechanism is then developed to help apply the solutions under malfunctions and misoperations of the network. So this decision-making will help us implement the remedies very rapidly.
Which is the difference between a smart grid and a traditional power grid?
Yes, the smart grid by definition is a two-way communication.
Okay.
In the traditional power systems, there is unidirectional communication. That means the customers report their consumption to the utility, and of course the utility will charge them based on the consumption. In the smart grid, this communication is two-way. That is, not only does the customer send reports of their consumptions, of their needs as well, of their schedules, and any other things that the utility may actually need, but also the utilities send customers about outages, about the pricing, about changes in the system, and about modifications, and many other data that customer could benefit from. So this two-way communication could help operate the system more efficiently.
Okay.
So this is what smart grid is. Now, the smart grid can help with many occasions, especially when the power grid has a scheduled maintenance. There is going to be a power outage or an unexpected unexpected effect, such as natural disaster where the power is out. The smart grid can actually inform the customers about when the power can be restored, what problems are in the system, and potentially could help few customers with solar panels or other source of energy to connect together and survive, meanwhile the power is stored. So these are all potential benefits of a smart grid.
With the increase of renewable energy, is the traditional power grid exposed to any obstacle?
Yes, the renewable power, they involve some levels of unpredictability. And so they impose reliability issues on the power system operation. Power system, the traditional way power system operates, they rely on very predictable sources of energy, such as steam power plants like nuclear power or other forms of fossil fuel. But the renewables, which are very intermittent, they depend on sun, they depend on the weather, depend on the wind speed and power. This unpredictability will cause some issues in the operation, as we really don't know what is going to happen in the next hour or next day or next week. And because of that, there are issues in the operation of power system when these power sources are incorporated.
Yeah.
So this is a great deal of research right now in industry and academia, and methods are being developed, and these issues are going to be less problematic in the future, hopefully, with the progress of these new mechanisms that are going to happen.
Do you think Texas could have been spared from its freeze disaster a year ago?
Well, this system isn't connected to the larger US grid. And so because it's a smaller system, when the resources are out, it's difficult to get power to them. A backup power could have helped them. The other thing that happened in the Texas was the hard freeze that actually stopped the gas to reach the power plants.
Yes.
And that part is perhaps very unpredictable. And they have a lot of resources, but they couldn't use it because the cold didn't let the gas flow to the power plants. And a backup power would have certainly helped them, but these backup powers must be in place at large scale, so that when you have a large power outage like that, it could have helped them. In the rest of the U.S., this problem is less severe because it's a large interconnected system and you have a lot of resources. It's a larger power grid. And Texas is not like that's a smaller one. So it could partly be saved if a backup power did exist.
Which was alternative Texas needed to prevent this event?
It's a state policy to be independent.
Okay.
And that policy has been there for many years, so it's not new. And the rest of the grid is connected together, making a larger one, and so it's more prepared when you have power outage of this scale.
Yeah.
Then you get to feed power from different sources.
Do you have a due date to launch your project?
This is a 3-year project. Started the June of last year, and it will finish in the June of 2024.
Okay.
So we will actually submit the final report then. But meanwhile, there will be scientific publications in the public domain of our findings, and so hopefully these publications will appear as we go in the progress throughout the project.
What do you think is the future path of the energy industry?
Well, in the future, I expect more renewable power will be utilized. Dependency on the fossil fuel power generation will be reduced. So better technology will bring more reliability and cost saving to the renewable power sources and make them easier to adopt and utilize. One important thing is right now, the renewable power, because of their unpredictability, they cause certain protection issues in the larger power system and in the downtown systems, which are very sensitive, where the governments and hospitals and the many important buildings are. When you have renewable power, they cause certain protection issues. So in the future, these issues will be remedied and will be fixed by implementing new mechanisms and the smart grid as well. So I predict these challenges will be remedied and fixed. And so we're hoping to see more renewable power in the next generations. And maybe dependency on the fossil fuel will be reduced and will be minimized. So the renewable power is a cheap source of power, but its implementation is a little difficult. Mm-hmm. And as we go, these difficulties will be resolved, more and more. And the possibility of utilizing different sources of renewable power will be available.
Are you planning other projects to overcome this energy transition period?
Yes, my research majorly focuses on developing tools for studying as well as predicting effects of renewable power on the block power system. So these tools include simulation platforms, hardware, algorithms, to study faults, blackouts, and power system stability. So this is a new topic, and it'll be a very hot topic for many years.
Yes.
And I'll be happy to, and I'm really happy that I'm actually part of this larger effort to improve this technology.
Finally, Dr. Mehraeen, do you want to share with the audience a final message or any important thoughts?
We're hoping that the next generation of power systems is smart enough to implement the rooftop solar panels that the solar panels that the homes will have, and in a smarter way, and so that the customers can actually manage their own power, and in the disaster situations they can manage to survive without the help of the main grid, which is sometimes hit very hard by the natural disasters such as hurricanes and hard freezes and so on. So I think the future of the grid will be a grid that's a lot more reliable, and it's a grid that's better serving the customers, especially in situations like last year of Texas. So supporting renewable power is a great idea. I think, and I'm really glad that the governments of the most developed countries are actually supporting this technology, because fossil fuel, we don't know how long they're going to last. We have a lot of reservoirs right now, but we don't know in the future what happens to these reservoirs. Are we going to find new ones? And then at the end of the day, we have to really rely on the cheap source of energy, which is the sun, and the wind, which is very available. And I'm really, glad that I'm part of a research that involves this technology.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shahab Mehraeen. It was a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you for the audience. See you soon in another new Energy Capital interview.
Oh, thanks for having me.